Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to Gain Mindshare once again. And as always, we have a very special program planned for you today or tonight, wherever you're listening. So with that, we want to kind of get right into what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking this afternoon, actually this morning when we're actually recording this, Will Lane. And Will Lane is at dreamchasershow.com. Will is both a marketer and a podcaster, but more than that, he's an author as well as a motivational speaker. And so we're going to be getting into some of the things that Will's going to be doing, as well as some things that I think are going to be helpful to you, in your journey on entrepreneurship. So with that, I want to bring Will on. Will, are you here?
I'm here. Good morning, Chuck.
Hey, good to have you, Will. I just want to kind of tear right into this. I've been looking at Dream Chaser. Very impressive in terms of the things that you're talking about. But more than likely, this is going to be an introduction to some folks who may not have heard the Dream Chaser podcast. But I want you to tell me a little bit about who you are, kind of where you come from, and then let's kind of dive in from there. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, who I am, that changes from day to day. But I'm originally from Philadelphia, born and raised right outside a small town called North Hills, 5 minutes outside of the city.
Yep.
And grew up in, lower the middle class neighborhood. Got into a little bit of trouble, but nothing ever serious. But dealt with a lot of the things, selling drugs and, in the streets and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And through high school, I almost didn't graduate high school, as a matter of fact. I didn't know what I was going to do 6 months before I was graduating high school. And what happened was there was actually a drug raid, which a lot of my friends actually got incarcerated over. And I was one of the few who did not fall victim to that.
Yep.
And so, I figured if I didn't change something quick, that I was going to probably wind up, in prison somewhere.
A statistic.
Exactly. And so decided to go to school. I took the first school that kind of gave me a chance, which was Kutztown University. Right. Shout out to Kutztown. Nothing but books, trees, and Amish people. So nothing to do but stay focused.
Right.
And managed to get on an academic scholarship, kind of got my act together, and went out into the corporate world. Started with a company called the Vanguard Group.
Okay, yep.
Started out doing just basic stuff, answering questions about potential investors and clients as well, about asset allocation, diversification,
right,
things of that nature. And that really gave me, I think, a foundation in terms of just understanding money and the way money operates in the world from a practical standpoint.
So
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. So you were obviously then, if you got in there and you liked it, I mean, you were obviously able to generate some success, in corporate life. And I know that's not something that's for everybody, right? Some people get into corporate life and it's just not their thing. What do you think allowed you or helped you to get, that level of competence or success in corporate America?
I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I like money, which is the only reason I went to school, because I thought I was going to be rich once I got a degree, right?
That's right. Yeah, we all did.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I figured, all right, I only want to go because I want to make money, so let's study business to learn about money.
Right.
But I tell you, when I got in the corporate world, it was such a difference from what I was used to. My high school was mixed, so there was a lot of social integration as far as that's concerned. But my background, I had only really dealt with people that looked like me, spoke like me, and so forth. And when I went into corporate, especially finance, it's very conservative, mainly white middle class and upper class individuals. Sure. So a lot of it, my success really came from the insecurity, the fact that, I thought I potentially wasn't good enough or that I couldn't connect with these people. So I really took it upon myself to study everything I possibly could and do my job better than anyone else. You know, a lot of it was just insecurity, to be honest.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. So now, to get into being in corporate. Now, obviously, was that after undergrad? Did you go to grad school? Well, tell me this. Tell me this before we get to that. You know, what do you think about now? Obviously, you don't get into a corporate career without without some level of education. And you talked about what that you thought maybe education was going to make you rich. What do you think about education today?
I think for the most part, it's pretty much outdated. The world is changing, always has, is always going to continue to be changed, and I think a lot of the education that's used right now is really outdated. I mean, you figure grade school, high school, that curriculum is really good if you lived around, in the 1800s,
Right,
120 years ago.
Yep.
But with the trend with corporations actually shrinking and the entrepreneur class actually growing, I think a lot of what you need in order to be successful nowadays is really not given to you in school. I mean, we really need more education around entrepreneurship.
Right.
We need to bring apprenticeship back. It used to be 100 years ago, if you wanted to be a blacksmith, you studied and mentored under someone.
Exactly.
So I really think we need more apprenticeship at this point.
Right. Yeah.
And more mistakes. The best education you can get is mistakes. So we need more people, willing to make more mistakes now.
Right. Yep. Yep. So now, okay, you got into corporate, and so you kind of made this move over to what I would call personal development. So how did you make the switch? When did you get involved with personal development, and why why'd you make the change?
I read a book by Napoleon Hill when I was about 14 years old. It's called Think and Grow Rich, and I think that book really just kind of opened up my world in terms of what was possible for myself. Even though, like I said, I did a lot of things that I'm not necessarily proud to say.
Right. Yeah.
I still always had in the back of my mind that something bigger was out there and something bigger was possible. And so I've always kind of been interested in it. And I think even during my career, I think that's what has allowed me to excel. The fact that I'm always looking to get better, always looking for that nugget that I can use and I can put in my back pocket, sort of like, you got your hammer, you got your screwdriver, always looking for another tool. And I'll tell you real quick, so I went into commercial banking, and in 2008, when the market fell out, and it really fell out in 2007, but we'll say 2008.
Yeah.
That's when it finally showed up on the news. But in 2008, I noticed that, and I was managing basically corporate clients, business clients, and I noticed that a lot of them were actually falling off. I mean, I saw people go from multi-million-dollar businesses to absolutely nothing to bankruptcy.
Overnight.
In some cases, in a matter of weeks, I would see this happen.
Right,
I mean, you have a major contract with a FedEx or some major large contract that's been carrying you, for most of your, the start of your business. To have that go away,
right? Yep.
The water can dry up pretty fast. But I noticed that while most businesses were either suffering or they weren't around just altogether, that there were a handful of people and businesses that were actually thriving. They were actually doing very well. And almost without exception, the leaders of those companies were very heavy into personal development.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the point where I really dove in, all out. Like, wow, I've been reading about this stuff for, forever, but it really works. It's not just a good idea. The stuff really works. And so 2008 is when I really kind of just dove in head first and attended every seminar, every workshop, read every book. I mean, I have a library with just about every, well, not every, but, I have a pretty extensive library. So I guess say, you could say over the last 5 or 6 years, I've really been into it heavy.
Mm-hmm. So now you talk about your library, and, everybody's library is different. Tell me, what do you read? For instance, what do you read now? What do you read in general, that makes up that library you're talking about?
I do a lot of I do a lot of everything. I do a lot of business. Michael Gerber, The E-Myth, I think
Yeah,
is
sure, yeah.
standard reading if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Great book.
I do a lot of spiritual reading too. I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra,
Yeah.
and those guys. And then from like, just the personal development, getting better standpoint, I'm a big fan of a guy named Jeffrey Combs. I tell you, I'm a big fan of the network marketing industry. You asked me earlier how I felt about education, and I really think network marketing is, that's 101 for entrepreneurship.
Sure.
I mean, you pretty much get everything in a great network marketing program. You get the personal development, you get the entrepreneurship, you get the leadership, and the truth is, if you want to be an entrepreneur these days, you really have to be. It's not easy. So you really have to have thick skin, you have to have perseverance, and you have to be a leader. You have to be willing to get out there in front of people and really make some mistakes. So I'm a real big fan of network marketing.
Sure.
But as it relates to personal development and reading, I'm not in my library, in my office right now, but I pretty much have everyone in there you could think.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, I mean, pretty much everybody.
Yeah. So now you're in the personal development, and so you decided to develop the show, the Dream Chasers show. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the show is really geared towards, I mean, anybody, of course, can listen to it, but I really wanted to gear it towards African Americans, the youth, because there is a lot of us who don't have access to this information, the information that I had access to. Not necessarily that everyone doesn't have access to it, because everyone certainly does, especially with the internet, but I don't know if it's necessarily presented in a way that's palatable.
Sure. Yeah.
To everyone. I mean, if your environment is not conducive to gravitating to a certain type of language or a certain type of personality, then you pretty much don't go towards it.
That's right.
So I try to make it hip-hop friendly, if you will.
I understand.
But at the same time, I try to deliver high-level information. I figure, if I could reach 100 people, if I could just touch one person or plant the seed in one person that can change their lives and just see, you don't have to be a victim to your circumstances. I think the job is done.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of people, they choose a lot of ways to get their message out. And, I personally, I like Blog Talk Radio. I like things like that. But you chose a podcast. You could have chosen a blog. You could have chosen just to do an article, create an information product. Why did you decide to do a podcast?
For one, actually, podcast popularity is actually increasing. Whereas most people know about YouTube and a lot of the video sites, podcasting is actually, you can talk to a lot of people now and you say podcast, they don't even know what the heck a podcast is.
Right, yeah.
But with everything going mobile, with I think the PC not necessarily going away, but I definitely think it's going to play a smaller role in the future as everything is constantly getting smaller.
Right, yeah.
The iPhone and things of that nature. So I think the popularity of mobile, a podcast is something that you could always have in your back pocket.
Right. Yep.
With people becoming more health conscious, everyone's in the gym, you always have the headphones on.
Yep.
A
That's
podcast, I could be right there working out with them. And and just lost my train of thought, Charles. I also looked at the demographics of podcasts as well. The demographic is also a lot better with a podcast than it is, with just doing video. Now, I will get into, doing video and doing some YouTube stuff. I do have a couple projects on the board for that. But right now, I just really wanted to start out with the podcast. Yeah,
because, people can listen to you and do something else at the same time. I mean, with a video, you're stuck there, with you.
Exactly.
And, I can take somebody with me, on a podcast. But now, I want to get into, you talked about you want to direct, you want to make sure that, African Americans get a hold of this information, and you're in personal development. What's the big why? Why do you do this? Why this big focus? I know you're into personal development, But now, why do you think, and why is this so important for you to get this in the hands of other people?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I tell you, I think a couple of things. I think a lot. All right, but the only way for you to keep knowledge is by giving it away, I think. So that's one. You know, I want to retain my knowledge and continue to grow. So I think the best way for me to do that is to constantly keep feeding it to others so that the information actually lives within me.
Right.
But I actually did an interview with a gentleman last week, and he said something that was pretty profound to me. He said, there's 4 things that will make your life worth something. And he said that's having the feeling of achievement, that's having the feeling of happiness, the feeling of significance, and the feeling of legacy. And so I think with having a platform where I can actually give back and give in a way that, you know, I'm giving principles that I feel have actually made me successful. You know, I'm not a millionaire by any stretch, but I have, you know, grossed, you know, since the last 6 years, I'm in the top 10% of wage earners,
right,
in corporate America, which sounds better than it really is. You only have to make more than 88,000 to be in the top 10%. But I think when you look at the African American demographic, I'm actually in the top 3%.
Right, and still significant though.
Right, right. So there's something obviously that, you know, I do differently. There's a way that I think that's obviously different. You know, I've had ups and downs. I've gone through challenges, as I stated earlier, just like everyone else. But for me to be able to do that, I just want to take what I have and say, okay, maybe I can give that to someone else so that they can do the same thing too, so that they can provide for their families better than they may have been able to, you know, without it. So.
Right. Yep. And you talked about the fact that, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna say I'm a little biased because I agree with you, but you know, one of the ways people are going to have to be able to do that, you know, with the economy being the way it is, and some of the jobs that have gone the way that are not coming back, folks are going to have to be able to, you know, back in our parents' time, they used to call it a hustle, right? And some people might still call it that, but people are going to have to be more entrepreneurial. So you've obviously chosen this as kind of the thing that you want people to get. What do you think are the biggest factors for success in entrepreneurship today?
It's a good question, Chuck. I think I may have alluded to it earlier. I think you really have to have thick skin. I think the biggest thing that keeps people from trying to do something is that fear of failure, the fear of making a mistake, a fear of actually promoting yourself and things not working out, and, you know, you're embarrassed and everyone saw you and, you know, it didn't work out. And I think that you really have to have thick skin. You really have to be willing to make mistakes. Becoming a successful entrepreneur is really just a matter of removing those layers of fear. And we all have them. We all have them. And it's really just about removing those layers. Every time you try something, it doesn't work out. Sure, it doesn't work out, but that's actually a plus. It's not a minus sign, because you know something better for the next venture.
You do. That's right.
Yeah. My cousin, you know, he's had probably 10 different businesses, you know, since 18, and now he's finally at the point where, you know, he's really, you know, he's getting to the point where he's got people working under him. He's got a successful insurance business, but he's tried a million things that didn't work out, and that's the key. I mean, you really have to be willing to make mistakes. 2, I think you can do anything as long as you don't give up. So perseverance. You know, you really have to be, you know, be willing to continue to go out here every day, make it happen. Things don't work out, but go ahead out there again tomorrow and make something happen. And just never give up. There's nothing that you can't do as long as you stay the course, you know. 3, I think you have to have a good attitude. You know, we always hear your attitude determines your altitude. And that's true. I mean, you really have to be a source of good energy, especially if you want to be a leader. Everyone is looking for someone that they can latch onto, who's a source of positive energy, because the society doesn't program us to be that way. You know, if you look at the news, you listen to the radio, it's always gossip, or someone chewed off someone's face, and so
Right,
it
that's right.
really, it really, we get kind of programmed by default if you're not careful, if you don't take control of your mind. We really get programmed to be negative. So whenever you're doing something different, whenever you're happy every day, whenever someone can ask you how you're doing and you can say, "Wow, I'm phenomenal," they want to know what you're doing, because in many cases they're not feeling that way. So
Right. No,
those
that's
are the
right.
three things I think you have to have. I mean, I think if you eliminate your fear of failure, be persistent, and have a great attitude, I think you can do anything.
Right. So now, one of the things I think, and I found this about entrepreneurship is, anything that you do, you're going to be you're going to be entering the market, and nobody's going to know you, right? And so you've got to be able to establish some credibility. So for somebody who's listening to you and they're saying, "Yeah, I'm with you," but how am I going to get in, and how am I going to get into whatever market I decide to get into and be credible? What's the fastest way to somebody to get credibility in the market, do you think?
Well, I think the steps to everything. I think the first step, of course, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to look to be the best at it.
Right.
And how do you do that? You learn and you get a great mentor. So I think getting a great mentor, somebody who's actually doing it. And these days, everybody's looking to get paid. I want to get paid. How can I get paid? Well, how much are you going to pay me, right? Everybody wants to get paid. But, again, we got to get back to apprenticeship. Be willing to work under somebody. See if there's something you can help them with. Is there some paperwork that I can handle? With some
Right.
emails that I can send out for you? What do you need to take off your hands? Get under that person and just study them. Model them. Figure out, how do they talk when they talk with their clients? How do they go about this? What's their approach? What are they thinking on a day-to-day basis? How do they stay motivated? So, I mean, first thing is really to get a mentor. Second thing is learn marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Study marketing. Study
Got it.
every form of marketing that you can, because entrepreneurship is all about marketing.
It's
It's
all
not
about
the best person. It's not the best product. It's never about having the best. Some of the best stuff out there, and it's never about price, because some of the best stuff out there, or the most popular stuff out there, is not has the highest price. Doesn't
Yeah.
have the highest price. Doesn't have the lowest price necessarily. So, learning how to market yourself and really being the best that you could possibly be. Marketing is the key. It's not about being the best. It's about marketing yourself.
Yeah.
And then 3, your communication. Your communication should always be tight, whether it's in writing or it's in speech. I'm a little laid back today, but if I'm in front of a client, if I'm in front of a corporate client, my language kind of
It's
conveys
crisp.
that
Right.
exactly. I'm in that type of atmosphere. If your audience is a little bit more laid back, if you listen to the podcast, I'm a little bit more laid back. I'm a little bit mellower. But communication is something that you also have to master if
Yeah.
you really want to be able to market yourself effectively.
It's fantastic. I want to turn this. I want to turn this back personal for a little bit, because you talked about motivation, right? So now you're into personal development, but obviously somebody's gonna motivate, or something gets you inspired and motivated. What do you do to get motivated, or what gets you inspired?
And I want to add to that last thought. Another thing that's going to allow you to be credible is public speaking. Make sure you get in front of as many people as possible. Public speaking is key. If you can get in front of an audience and speak confidently and knowledgeably, the sky's the limit. So public speaking is on that. But what gets me inspired, I think I get inspired most by seeing people work hard, Chuck. Seeing people work hard. That really gets me motivated.
Mm-hmm.
If I see someone and they're passionate and they're putting everything they have into it and they're laying it on the line, that just gets me inspired to go back to the lab and, get working.
Right.
So I really try to keep myself around as many people as possible that are actually up to something, trying to do big things.
Because that makes you, it kind of gives you, at some place, it sets off that alarm in your mind that, okay, the big thing is possible. Somebody's actually working at something, and you kind of feel like, okay, well, I got to go back and I got to start working on mine too.
Sure.
You talked about mentorship, Will. So clearly, you've either got some mentors or you're modeling some of what you're doing after someone. Who do you model yourself after?
Wow. You know what? This is a little bit of probably about 100 different people. And me, I'm one of those individuals. I'm always listening for a nugget or a lesson. So I mean anybody. I mean, if I see someone that's successful, I'll take them out to lunch and just kind of pick their brain. But it's really hard to say. I mean, from people might know that are more well known. It could be anywhere from somebody from Jim Rohn. Cedric Harris is a big name in the internet marketing space that I'm a real big fan of. I try to take a little bit of everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody I see, hear, meet, and kind of put it into my own style. One thing that I am careful of, even while I do model a number of people, I always try to instill at the end of the day, be Will Lane. Mm-hmm. I never want to lose myself, and I think that's something. While you do want to make sure you're modeling and you're getting the right mentorship, you always want to make sure what sits well with you and how you can use what you just learned to be the best you, not copy anyone else.
Yeah, yeah. So now, are you, on a personal level, you married, you got kids. Who's Will Lane at home?
Well, no, I'm not married yet. I am in a relationship. We've been together for 4 years. She's actually, we're actually in a long-distance relationship at the moment. She actually is in Shanghai. She
Wow.
went over there. Yeah.
You're
she
brave,
had a dream. Right. She always had the dream of living in another country, and it was either going to be Africa or Asia, and the opportunity came up because she created the possibility of it coming up for her to work in Asia, and so she's doing that. Actually, just got a great promotion where she'll be handling marketing for China, Indonesia, and Russia. So she'll be doing a little bit of traveling. So when she gets back, we'll look at the marriage part, I guess.
Okay, very good, very good. So now, I know how this is, in entrepreneurship. I mean, these days, there aren't necessarily any clearly defined lines between, my leisure time and my work time. There is what I guess that you might call free time. What do you do? What do you do when you're not entrepreneuring? What do you do during your free time?
I'll tell you what, I'm a little, I'm unusual. I'm always working. I probably work a little bit too much. My free time consists of trying to get better
Right.
in any way that I can.
Right.
And that consists of reading. I really enjoy reading, working out. I run, do weights. But I'm pretty obsessed with success. So I'm always looking to get better. I don't do too much free time. But I enjoy just relaxing. From time to time, maybe I'll catch a movie, but that's maybe like once every other month, once every 3 months.
Right,
I don't watch any cable. I don't have any TV at home. I'm a little too serious, probably more so than most people should be.
Right.
I got to learn to relax.
Yep, loosen the bowstring. So now, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in the future? Where's it all going, Will?
I'd really like to create a brand. I really like to create a brand of excellence. I really, like I said, I'd like to take the podcast into internet TV, do some books. I'm actually working on a book right now that I'm hoping will be done by the end of the year. And I really want to touch and inspire as many people as I possibly can, because we definitely need it out here. I think there's too much nonsense. I think a lot of people are kind of getting away from, the regular turn on the TV, listen to the radio. People are really just wanting more. The world is a lot smaller. There's a lot more opportunity for things out here, more so than there was maybe 50 years ago. So I think people are really looking for more. So my objective would really just be a vehicle to show people that that's possible.
Sure, sure. Well, tell me a little bit now. If I want to check out the show now, I already know, but the folks who are listening, they may not know where to find the podcast. So where can we find the Dream Chaser Show podcast?
Well, if you're on iTunes, you can go to iTunes and search for Dream Chaser Show. If you're not on iTunes, you can go to Podomatic. Currently, it's number 3, or as of yesterday, it was number 3. It's definitely in the top 10 of all podcasts in the business and careers section, and that's at dreamchaser.podomatic.com. You can also visit the blog, which is dreamchasershow.com, and if you need to get in contact with me personally, you can reach me at will@dreamchasershow.com.
Excellent, excellent, very good, very good. So, Will, I definitely want to thank you for being on the program today. You know, as always, you know, in corresponding with you, you get the sense that again, you know, as you said, you know, being around people that are actually going someplace makes you want to work harder, and that's what you've always done for me. So I definitely appreciate you being here, and I hope that everybody, if you're listening, go on over to Dream Chaser Show at Podomatic.com, catch the podcast, and definitely if you want to get more of Will Lane, you want to go over there and check out his site also. So with that, Will, again, thank you very much for being on the program. It's been a great call. I've learned a lot. And again, you know, I'm gonna even invest more of my reading time, you know, into personal development. I do a lot of reading, but probably not as much as I should in terms of developing myself. So you've even kind of given me just a heads up on that, and I'll be doing a little bit more of that myself. So with that, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Chuck. Pleasure.